What up, Jippers? Lplays back once again, and today I want to jump in to the No Man's Sky next update news a little bit more. So we've already covered the actual official announcement, what we've been told so far, and what to expect with the launch on Xbox. But today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to dive a lot deeper. I kind of want to dive head first into tinfoil hat territory and start to dissect all of the information that we've been given, whether it's through the official announcements, the tweets, the news articles, or the Waking Titan ARG, and this new weird website and all of that kind of stuff, to see if there's any clues or hints or bits of information that we can gather from that. Have a bit of speculation, some theorizing, some unofficial fact finding, and sort of digging around to see if we can come up with what we think is going to be the content that comes with the next update. So that's the purpose of this video. Very speculation heavy, not facts, not like official information, just me diving into all of this and giving my thoughts and theories on all of the information that we have been given so far. So I hope you enjoy it, guys. Let's get to it. Right, so before we do that, let's jump into a very quick recap, just summarizing the actual information that we have been given so far about the No Man's Sky next update. And I want to start off by saying, in terms of content, that is literally nothing. We don't know any facts about the content of this update. Nobody has that information. It's not available publicly just yet. So if you're seeing people say that they know stuff, just take that with a pinch of salt for now. So first things first, release date. We have been given a release date window for the No Man's Sky next update, and that is summer 2018. So that is June to August. Sometime within that window we're going to get the game. I'm seeing a lot of people argue about the exact dates for this, which is kind of funny, because in the UK there's actually kind of two ways you can look at this. There's a meteorological summer and there's an astronomical summer, and both of them actually have different official dates if you look at the Met Office website. Don't get caught up on it. It's a window. The whole point of a window is it's not supposed to be specific. It's probably going to be sort of June to August time. That's kind of what to expect. So depending on which one of those you take, it's either the 1st of June to the 31st of August, and I think that's the one that most people take, or there's the 21st of June to the 23rd of September. So they're the kind of officially recognized summer periods, but it's going to be sometime in there. Don't worry about it too much. It's coming soon. We're going to get it. It's going to be awesome. Now, one interesting thing on that release date, although Hello Games themselves and Sean Murray have said summer 2018, there is an article by Polygon going around that does call out August as the exact month that it will be released. Now, I don't know if that's fact or if that's just them getting something wrong or making an incorrect assumption, but they are reporting that August is the release date, so that could just be them not quite having the information right. They have got that article out pretty quickly, or it could be that they've been told that behind the scenes and they weren't supposed to leak it, but they have. Maybe they didn't feel that was a big issue, just saying when it's going to be released. So yeah, I don't know if that's fact or not. Wasn't sure whether to include it at this point in the video, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. Polygon are reporting August as the actual date for when it comes out. So we also know that not only is this update coming in the summer, it's also coming along with a brand new launch of No Man's Sky for the first time ever, coming to the Xbox One console. So that'll be available on the One and of course the One X. And we do actually know that it will have enhanced support for the Xbox One X. So you're talking about your 4K HDR enhancements, similar to what we've got now on the PS4 Pro, possibly slightly better because of the increased power of the One X. But yeah, that's nothing too surprising there. Now, alongside that information, we were given the 30-second teaser trailer, and this was very much a teaser trailer. There's nothing in there that hints at content. It's a blank white screen, almost like a slideshow type presentation that anyone could have knocked up, and the title just fades in saying No Man's Sky next. That was it. Now, please keep in mind that the only reason we've been given this information at this point, as Sean Murray announced on Twitter, is because it was about to leak. So somebody was gonna tell us about this. They've got ahead of it. That's why we've been given a very basic 30-second trailer to cover this off. We know the game's going to be published by 505 Games, so they are publishers that do a lot of Xbox physical content. They've done stuff like Terraria, they've done stuff like Portal Knights, so they know what they're doing with distribution and publishing of physical editions of the game. My personal belief is that there's going to be physical and digital copies. As far as I know, that hasn't actually been specifically confirmed, but I'm sure we can assume that that is the case, and that does seem to be backed up by what some of the news articles are saying, and a lot of the rumour that we're hearing from people like GameStop employees and retailers saying they have been told to prepare for a physical version of the game. So I would expect both. That hasn't been officially announced by Hello Games themselves or 505 Games, but based on what they do, that's what I would expect. We also know there's new artwork for the box, so it's not new artwork in terms of stuff we've seen before. It is the Atlas Rises artwork. So if anyone wants to see that, you can go along to the No Man's Sky website, take a look on there, and you'll see the picture, the image. I'll pop that up for you as well. But it looks like that's going to be used for the box art. That's the image that 505 Games have published, along with the Xbox like physical box to showcase that they're going to be releasing the game. We would assume that that's going to be the box art. I guess it's possible that that is still a placeholder since this was leaked. But that's what we think is going to be the box art for the game, and it certainly is backed up by what's been shown to us by official channels. Now, the other thing we have been told, and this is kind of official fact, but it's quite vague, so we've been told by Sean Murray himself that this is going to be the largest ever update to No Man's Sky. So that's it in terms of the fact about what, that's probably the biggest hint about the actual content itself that we've been given. We don't know what's coming, but we know it's big. We know it's the biggest thing so far that's come to the game. Atlas Rises 1.3 was a pretty huge update. Supposedly this is going to be even bigger, and that makes sense when you think that it's been almost a year now. By the time this comes out in the summer, it will have been very close to a year. If not, it will have actually been a year. If it actually launches towards like the end of that window in August time, then we could well be looking at a 12-month development cycle between updates here. So that makes sense. It's going to be big, and it's certainly going to be the biggest so far. We also know that this update is 100% absolutely free. It's a free update. They've been very clear to like put that in. The wording has confused some people because they've said this will be a free update to existing players, but I think the purpose behind that was just to really call that out and say everyone who has this game will have this update for free. They've also said anyone who buys it on Xbox One X, the next update will be included day and date as a free update with that version of the game, so they're not going to be paying extra for that even if you don't currently own the game today. If you get it when this comes out, it's going to be included with that. You might have to pay for the game, of course, if you're buying it on Xbox, but the update itself will be free. And we also know that they plan to continue to support the game in this way for the foreseeable future. So what we can take away from that, I guess not 100% fact, but that very much indicates that they plan to release more free updates going forward, at least for the short to medium term. So one other thing we were told is that this game, No Man's Sky, is actually a pretty big deal in China. That's the second largest player base for the game, and they're supporting their Chinese players more with a launch coming to Tencent WeGame. So that is essentially a Steam type platform, very similar to what we have with Steam, but this is obviously the equivalent for China. So yep, they get it on there. That's another platform which is actually a pretty big deal. Obviously doesn't sound as huge as the Xbox release, but if you think about it, that's another pretty massive market that they're getting into, and a good way for them to generate some extra revenue as a company as well. So that's pretty much all we know in terms of official, actual information coming from either 505 Games, that are the publisher for this game, Hello Games themselves. You know, anything else we get other than that is kind of speculation at this point. There might be some people out there that do have extra information that leak it, but as far as I know, that hasn't happened, and hopefully that doesn't happen. For now, that's all we've got. They are the facts. That is all we know for sure. One other thing that was quite interesting with this announcement, so the 30-second teaser trailer I mentioned there did actually have a logo for the WearTech website. So that's the Chinese website that's been linked to the Waking Titan ARG, and the puzzle and mystery behind all of that kind of sits behind the updates typically for No Man's Sky fans. So that's quite interesting. It kind of officially validates that that website is 100% part of the ARG and is definitely related to the game. So that's kind of cool. Not about the game or the content itself, but definitely linking that into the ARG and confirming that they are definitely two related things. So the next thing that I want to move on to now is actually getting into some of this speculation, some of the discussion, some of this tinfoil hat territory about this whole situation itself. First, I want to do the situation and the Xbox launch and what all of this means, and then I want to drill a little bit more into what I think is going to come in terms of content and what we can probably take as some subtle hints and clues that might be emerging from the information we have been given so far. So the first thing I want to focus on is the leak. Sean Murray tweeted out, of course, that this information was about to be leaked, and that's why they've hit us with all of this news straight away out of the blue. That's why we've got it as early as we have. It sounds like they were absolutely not planning to tell us any of this just yet, at least, but they've kind of been forced into doing that so that they could control the message, and it wasn't coming from some leaked source that's just, you know, spinning this out there from nowhere and people not knowing whether it's true or not, and it causing some kind of backlash and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, so the information was going to be leaked. Now, we don't know exactly what was going to be leaked, so one of the things I am seeing quite a lot of is people talking about, oh, there's some leakers out there that probably have more information. it's possible, but what I take from this, from my perspective, is that the reason this has come out now, specifically around the Xbox launch, I'd expect that is the piece of information that was going to be linked. That's quite typical when a company is gearing up for a new release with physical distribution. So think about it, if they're preparing to launch on Xbox, they're going to have to be talking to retailers and preparing them to hold stock and ship stock and distribute stock and all of that kind of stuff. So it's probably somewhere in that distribution chain somebody has found out that, oh, this is coming to Xbox, either somebody they can't trust or somebody who has already threatened to leak it, or they've heard that someone has started telling people that they shouldn't, and they've kind of thought, well, this is going to get out there very quickly, we better get ahead of it. So that's my guess. That is, of course, speculation. It's not 100% fact, but I would assume that the piece of information that was going to be linked was purely the Xbox launch, possibly the name of the update next as well. But it's most likely that someone just found out this was coming to Xbox, and that's why we are where we are now. So two other quite interesting areas that I want to dive into a little bit about the situation itself and the fact that it is coming to Xbox are crossplay and mod support. Now, mod support obviously is a pretty huge thing that a lot of the PS4 players kind of want but don't really expect, have kind of wished for. People have mentioned that they'd love to see it, but I don't think anyone's really expecting it to come anytime soon. And that's more because of Sony than Hello Games, and of course some of the mods are quite intensive, so there's a lot of debate and question over whether they could even run on PS4. But I guess like the first thing is some sort of basic mods certainly could, depending on, you know, like what they are. If it's just like ship skins and stuff like that, there's no reason that couldn't come. It's just a case of Sony probably not wanting to do it or it being too difficult to do. Now, Xbox seem to be a little bit more open to that kind of thing, and I know at the moment, I remember like reading recently there was a news article about them hiring for a position specifically to handle making it easier for developers and games and companies to add mod support to their games on the Xbox and Microsoft platforms. So that kind of opens the door a little bit to think maybe mod support coming to the Xbox version of the game is a lot more likely than it is to the PlayStation version, and that could be something we see in the future. I don't know, I just want to kind of throw that out there. That was one of the first things I thought of was, hold on, Xbox seemed to be a little bit more keen on modding than PS4. Possibly this could be the first time we see mod support in a console version of No Man's Sky, which would be super cool. I don't know, what do you think about that? I'll be interested to hear whether you think that's nonsense or is that a genuine possibility. Now, the other thing is crossplay. Crossplay is obviously another huge thing. This kind of links into something I'm going to talk about a little bit later, of course, with the multiplayer. We know at the moment there's very basic, very basic multiplayer in the game. It's not crossplay, of course, at the moment. The game itself is not even the same version of the game. So on PC, I mean, it's very similar, but the actual universe and the procedural generation on the PC version compared to the console version is different. So they are different universes that generate with slight changes in them based on those two versions of the game. So there's a big question over whether there'll be crossplay if there is more added to the multiplayer side of things between Xbox, PlayStation 4 and PC. Now, my view on this, again, Xbox, Microsoft seem much more open to this. Of course, Sony very much do not seem to want to play ball with any sort of crossplay at the moment. There are some games where it's enabled on PlayStation, but it's very rare, and they're quite confident pushing back on some of the bigger games at the moment that are trying to push from that from the Xbox and PC side. They're just kind of saying no to it. So I don't think crossplay between Xbox, PC and PS4 is a likely outcome anytime soon, at least, but I could certainly see that happening between Xbox and PC players and those versions of the game. I guess the big driver there will just depend on if it is released as a completely separate version of the game in the same way that the PC and PS4 versions are now. So if it is a different procedurally generated universe and it's not like shared between the two, then I guess that won't be possible. But it would be interesting if that was the case. I think if they are able to do that, then crossplay definitely could come. So fingers crossed for that, but I wouldn't get too hopeful. Probably going to come down to console limitations once again. So those are kind of the big things about the situation that I wanted to talk about. One other thing that I just want to throw in there a little bit on the side is that potentially here we could be looking at some news or some information, or at least a bit of a publicity push behind the Xbox launch of No Man's Sky coming to E3, which is just like kind of exciting to think about, right? We could see No Man's Sky at E3 once again. Certainly not from a Sony perspective, but from an Xbox side. Xbox seemed quite keen this year to have a real big impact. They've moved out of the usual venue and got their own big space this year, so they're hoping to like do a lot of cool stuff and showcase a lot of games more than they have in the past. So possibly there might be a little mini push behind No Man's Sky launch at the Xbox E3 conference, or at least at the venue during E3. That would be kind of cool. That's going to be too early for the update to be out, of course, and I don't think the game will have actually launched by then, but there could certainly be some sort of little marketing push behind it that we see at E3, which would be, I don't know, I guess that would be cool. Just something I wanted to throw out there as well in terms of this whole scenario that we're in at the moment. And of course that leads on to one other thing. If there is a bit more of a marketing push about this, and it certainly seems so far that there's going to be, so Sean Murray has come out publicly to make this announcement. Hello Games tweeting, you know, Phil Spencer even like backed this on Twitter. He like shared his congratulations, so he's pretty hyped about it. But it certainly seems like there's going to be a little, at least a mini sort of publicity campaign to push this out there once the next update does drop, and a bit more of a marketing push once again, something we haven't seen for a long time from Hello Games. So it's possible that we see more of Sean Murray, we see more of Hello Games, and for me personally that's quite exciting. I don't know what you guys think about that, but yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility that this is quite a big deal. This is coming to a new platform with what we expect to be a major update that's really going to change things. This is essentially a relaunch of the game. It is the first time it's launching on Tencent's Wii game platform and on Xbox, so that is a new launch of the game, and we're also expecting that to coincide with this massive update. So if there is ever going to be another marketing push behind something, that would be the time to do it, and this could be a time and a scenario where we do start to see a lot more public interaction from Hello Games and from people like Sean Murray. Okay, so that's it for the situation. We've kind of covered off what we know and what I think about the whole situation itself. Now I want to delve into actual content. What do I really think is going to come with the next update? What is the next update? Why is it called Next? What kind of stuff are we going to see in terms of gameplay changes to No Man's Sky? Now, I did a predictions video a little while ago on what I thought the next update for No Man's Sky was going to be. That was before all of this news was announced, but it essentially covered 3 key things, and for the most part I'm still sticking with those as the main themes. The first one was a complete overhaul, revamp, reimagining of the game, more variation. Think in terms of some of the stuff that modders have done, so stuff like the Raid Rod overhaul, better variation, more planet types, more interesting creatures, bigger planets, bigger trees, just better procedural generation overall, more variation, more colours, more interesting stuff to look at. I really believe that's going to be one of the big focuses behind the game, bringing it closer to that E3 trailer level of look and feel. That's got to be the goal from my perspective. I think that's definitely number 1 in terms of my predictions. Now, the second one I had on there is a very small one. If this doesn't come, I'm going to be tearing my hair out. And that was some sort of underwater exocraft, so like a little submarine or like a scuba suit, or some sort of tool to make getting around underneath the water and in the oceans of the game a little bit more bearable. At the moment, it's incredibly slow and tedious. Getting around on land is fun. Getting around on the water is just horrible. So they've got to add something to make that easier, and I'm sure they're going to do that. And the third one was multiplayer. So I was a bit more reserved then about multiplayer than I am now. I'm still a little bit reserved in some senses, but less than I was then. But just to recap on what I thought back then, I said I think multiplayer is definitely going to be built on. They've said they were going to build on multiplayer when they launched Atlas Rises. They can't really not do that now, and I think there's been a lot of hints in the ARG, especially this new Wear website, that there's going to be multiplayer improvements to the game. If anything, after this next reveal, after this announcement that it's coming to Xbox, I think that's probably going to be even bigger than I was thinking. But at the time, I was kind of along the lines of the same multiplayer that we've got now, with a like very limited, maybe 12 players at a time being able to see each other. But instead of seeing the orbs, there'd be a physical player model, not even necessarily the same instance of the game, but with a player model. That was kind of where I was thinking. I was hoping best case it would be simultaneous and you would be able to actually like touch and interact on the same planet with each other, rather than kind of being 2 separate instances of the same planet but different versions of it like it is now, where you can't actually interact with each other physically in the game. So that was my predictions then. What's changed now? What do I think after all of this, what do I think after seeing some of the stuff in these news announcements, in these tweets, in the next reveal, and in the Waking Titan ARG stuff that's happened with the new WearTech website? So the first thing that I want to talk about here, and I think this is an absolutely massive clue, every time we get an update for the game, so it happened with Foundation, Pathfinder, and Atlas Rises, that comes along with a new like image, a new like poster, if you like, of the update to represent it. So for the Pathfinder one, if you go to the No Man's Sky website there, you can see it was the little base logo. For the Exocraft, obviously for Pathfinder, it was a picture of the Roma, and for Atlas Rises, again, we had the portals. So these have always been a very heavy clue about what the content of that update was, and I think this time it's going to be no different to that. So the symbol here, this is something I really want to focus on. This is really interesting, and this is probably the biggest new thing for me in terms of what I think is coming, and in terms of a big clue that we've actually all been given, and that is this big red Atlas symbol. So it's the Atlas there, it's glowing red, it almost looks like angry or like it's damaged or something. So my theory behind this little piece of information is that that's going to be a big clue that we're getting loads more lore in this update. So I think the next update is going to add a whole load more story, a whole load more background and lore behind the Atlas. And there's kind of two different theories that I've got as to what this could be, and that's because it is this like red glowing version of the Atlas that does almost look angry. And that first one is, that's exactly what it is. It's angry. The Atlas, something goes wrong, it turns against the Traveler in game, and it becomes a much more bigger presence or like villain in the game that we have to fight against. Maybe some sort of great war, the Atlas and the Sentinels like hunting down all of the Travelers, that kind of storyline with loads more like combat and fighting and actual struggle going on in the game than there is at the moment. So that's kind of one of the theories that I had that I thought would be quite cool. And the other theory is that it's not angry, but it's like breaking down, it's like falling apart, it's crumbling, it's like about to self-destruct, and that could go quite nicely with the idea of an overhaul, right? So it could be the Atlas breaks down, the simulation is falling apart, that's why it's like red, it's about to explode or whatever, and as the Atlas crumbles, we're like reborn into the real world within the game, you know, outside of the simulation, or at least a new version of the simulation or something like that. And that could obviously coincide with how the game then all of a sudden gets overhauled and looks way better or something like that in terms of a story to back that up. So yeah, they're the kind of like two theories, but I definitely think that being the picture, the poster child, the image, the logo that they've used for this update is a very big clue that the Atlas lore is going to be expanded on very, very heavily in this update. Now, another big clue that I think we've probably been given is the name itself, Next. It seemed really weird when I first heard it. I was like, huh, that's kind of basic. But then if you think about it, it can also be quite cool, because it is like they're kind of pushing this as the next step for No Man's Sky, the next chapter in No Man's Sky's history. They talk about the last update being like a real inflection point where things start to turn around, and now they're kind of saying like this really is it. This is taking it to the next level, the next step, the next part of the No Man's Sky Hello Game story for everybody that is, was, or might be in the future a fan of the game. So I thought that was kind of cool. I feel personally like this once again really hints back to that like overhaul type thing, possibly also the multiplayer aspect being a big improvement or a big update. If they make the game like really truly properly multiplayer now, that would obviously be quite a big jump in terms of the gameplay and the next step for what the game is. Equally with an overhaul of the game and the visual style and the procedural generation, both of those things kind of coincide with this being like a big next step. So that's kind of not much there, but that's kind of what I think the next is hinting at, and I think that's why they've gone with that name. Okay, so I've touched on this a number of times now. Multiplayer, definitely think this is going to be a huge part of the game. A huge part of this next update is going to be focused around multiplayer. They did say it with the Atlas Rises patch notes. They have hinted at it. They did talk about multiplayer being possible before launch, and I think that's kind of become more of a focus and more of a thing that people want ever since then. So I really believe that's going to have to be a big part of this update, and it certainly seems like it is with what they said with 1.3. But also, this is where I really think we're getting a lot of clues in this WearTech website. So for anyone that doesn't know, there's a thing called Waking Titan. It's an ARG, which is an augmented reality game. It's basically an online puzzly type thing that goes on outside of the game but has clues and puzzles to solve that then link into the game. And that's been going on for quite a long time, way before this next update. No Man's Sky fans will know all about this. It's kind of been giving us something to do while we do wait for updates in between each one. But there's
tends to be some clues and hints in there before each update, and I think this is no different. I think this WearTech website, so I'll show you a couple of slides of the English version here. So it's actually a Chinese website, but you can just go on a translator to turn it into this and read everything that it says. But there's a lot of terms that have kind of referenced through here that I think point to multiplayer. So things like cross-team collaboration, online world, interconnected world. There's a lot of talk about that theme of things being joined up, teamwork, collaboration, everything being connected. Loads of little hints of that. There's even, I think there's a line in there that says a real massive multiplayer online game. Like, it actually has that phrase in there describing it as an MMO. And I think all of this is very much hinting that multiplayer is going to be expanded on quite heavily, possibly even to the point where we have got like full synchronous MMO style multiplayer within the game, which would be freaking awesome. But I definitely think that's a clue that we're being given here that some people probably aren't picking up on. I think a lot of people have noticed it, but that's, yeah, for me, that's definitely a pretty loud and clear clue as to what's coming next. And the next thing that you absolutely have to talk about if you're looking at this WearTech website is VR. I personally don't think there can be any question at this point. This website, this part of the ARG is so resoundingly clear that it's hinting at VR. There's no debate on that. I think it's very obvious. It mentions VR, like specifically calls it out so many times. The whole thing, this whole WearTech website is advertising this fictional sci-fi VR technology that doesn't actually exist, but it is very much VR. Even even the freaking logo for the website, you know, the V/ARE, it reads VR, and that logo was referenced on the next teaser trailer. Like, there's no way that's an accident. If this is purely just ARG lore and part of that Waking Titan story and doesn't tie into there actually being any VR in the game, to me that would just be complete madness. It would be baffling. There's no way that Alice and Smith, when they're coming up with this ARG, thought, let's throw in loads of VR symbolism, you know, something that loads of people have been asking for No Man's Sky, like, since day one. Let's chuck that all over this ARG, but then not actually have that anything to do with what's coming in the update or what's coming to the game. I just think that would be a terrible, terrible move, because whatever did come, people would be like, well, why were there loads of pictures of VR? Why were you hinting at VR? Why was there this whole website, like, side story all about VR if that wasn't coming to the game? So I think VR, from my perspective, don't know for sure. This is all speculation. Most of this video is, but you'd be crazy to not think that VR is coming. The only slight, I guess, caveat to that is I don't know for sure if that's going to come with the next update, right? The next update we know is coming. We know it's coming like day and date with the Xbox launch. We know that Xbox doesn't have proper VR support right now. There's not an actual official VR headset or whatever specifically for Xbox users like there is for PC and PS4. So yes, I could kind of see it being a separate thing, but then that's, if you think about it, that's the exact same situation as the Xbox launch itself, right? The next update is a content update for stuff that's going to be in the game. The Xbox launch, bringing it to Xbox, is like a side part of that. It's completely separate. It's not, the update isn't Xbox, you know, the update is what's going to happen in the game. The Xbox launch is just kind of something else they're doing, and I definitely think VR could be the same sort of thing, right? They just, here's the next update, it's massive, here's all the gameplay changes, oh, and by the way, we're also adding VR support for the consoles and systems that have it at the moment, so PC, PS4, if Xbox ever gets VR support in the future, we'll bring it to that too, but I could totally see that happening, and I think based on all of this stuff, all the clues here, all the references and talk about VR, that's gotta be happening. There can't be any question. In my mind, personally, I would be quite comfortable betting that VR is coming to the game. Okay, so that was it. That was everything I wanted to speculate about at the moment. They're kind of my predictions for what's coming, and a lot of that has been updated or changed based on this announcement, some of the stuff we've seen in the news articles, and especially this WearTech website. So many clues, I feel, in there about what could be coming for this update. So I just wanted to talk about that. Now, please bear in mind, I think I've said it like a million times, but people get really heated about this. Most of this was just my theorizing, my speculation, just having some fun, some discussion about what I think could be little clues that have been chucked in there. I could be completely wrong and none of this could happen, but yeah, I mean, you can at least see where I'm getting this from. I'm not just making this up off the top of my head. There's stuff in here that I think strongly points to some of the stuff that I've said. I'd love to know if you agree with me, if you think those are the things that are going to be coming. If you don't, what do you think is going to be coming? Are there other clues in here that you think I've missed? So either in the articles, in the announcement, in the WearTech website, is there other information that I've missed that you think is a clue about what's coming next? If so, let me know. Or is there stuff that I've just misunderstood? Have I taken something as a clue and you think, hold on, no, that's not right, you've misunderstood? Well, let me know. Happy to discuss it. I'll be jumping down in the comments to have all of that chat with you guys. I find that quite interesting. That's why I wanted to make this video. Hopefully you guys have found this interesting too, and hopefully some of it turns out to be true. That'd be pretty cool. So yeah, that was my speculation. I don't do this kind of thing a lot, and I just really wanted to because this has got me so excited, waiting for this update, this big announcement. It's got my head racing about all these ideas and crazy thoughts, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. There are a couple of warnings that I want to like throw in at the end here, so please don't tune off just yet. Some things that I have to kind of say, I feel obligated to say. First one of those is a lot of people, I think, are on the same lines of me, thinking this is going to be a massive overhaul, reimagining of the game, like quite a lot of new features and better procedural generation and more variation and just more interesting worlds to explore. Yes, I think that's definitely coming, but one thing I do always kind of like to mention is everyone always goes back to the E3 trailers. Now, I do think that's always going to be the goal. That was the vision. That's the kind of thing they're aiming for. But it's also important to remember that a lot of those trailers, you know, years before the game launched, they were pre-rendered trailers. They were scripted. They weren't even made using the actual No Man's Sky game engine, and of course, they weren't procedurally generated. I don't think procedural generation and the tech and what No Man's Sky have been able to do since then to now is enough to bring it to exactly that level. I don't think we're anywhere near having true procedural generated games that look as good as those E3 trailers. So don't get too disappointed. Don't be looking at the next update and expecting it to be exactly what you saw in those trailers. I just don't think that's going to happen. Hopefully it's going to get very close or closer or like something else, but as cool as that, I just don't think it's going to hit exactly that level. So just keep that in mind. We're still talking about a procedurally generated game, and you're still referencing back to trailers that weren't made that way, for better or for worse, whether that was right or wrong. That's just kind of the facts. Those trailers aren't a representation of what this game can actually do at the moment, and probably not going to happen anytime soon, so just keep that in mind. So that was warning number one. The only other warning that I want to chuck in there is around the multiplayer. I know I've mentioned things like the wording of massively multiplayer online game, and those are like direct lines taken from the ARG and stuff like that, but I do still think there's got to be some limitation around that. You've got to think this is the first time they've ever properly, well, hopefully this is the first time they really fully launched themselves into multiplayer in their game. I think they're going to have hiccups. I think they're going to have server issues. I think there's going to be problems when this launches. I think it's going to be like a lot of games when they try and have online stuff and they're not quite ready for it. We're probably going to hit some problems. People are going to have issues with it. They're going to be locked out of it. And I also think it's going to be limited still. I don't think it's going to be like World of Warcraft, fully MMO. Everyone just jumps in and you can see everyone in, no matter where they are, no matter how many people. I think there's going to be a limit, and that's going to be mostly because of the infrastructure required back end to support all of this. I have no doubt that if multiplayer is a big focus, they're spending a whole ton of money building the infrastructure to be able to support that, and they have probably been doing that for a while. But I don't expect every single player on every version of the game to be able to see each other all at the same time. It's probably going to be some sort of server type thing, you know, like you jump into a server with 30 other players or something like that, and that's the most you can see at one time. So yeah, just be prepared for that. I think the multiplayer is going to be cool, but I think there's going to be some limitations. I don't think it's going to have stuff like PvP. I just personally don't see this being the game for that. It could be as simple as you can just now see another player and walk around on the same planet as them, and if they damage a rock, you see that in your version of the planet because it's the same one. That for me is kind of all I would want from No Man's Sky multiplayer, and hopefully that's something they're able to achieve. But just be prepared. First time they're going to be doing multiplayer properly, there's going to be some issues, and it probably won't be as good as some people are hyping it up to be in that sense. Okay guys, that's about it for this video. A lot of speculation that I wanted to kind of throw out there, a lot of interesting thoughts and ideas that I had. Hopefully some of these clues that I've seen are actually accurate and they turn out to be right. We'll see when it all comes, I guess, in the summer. Either way, I'm sure whatever they do is going to be awesome. I've loved the last couple of updates for the game, and I've enjoyed the game like since I first played it, so I know that whatever they do, I'm going to enjoy it, and hopefully you guys will too. And of course, welcome to all of the Xbox players out there that get a chance to pick it up for the first time. I hope you have even a tiny bit as much fun as I have with the game, and I hope to see you out there. Take care guys, and peace.